My wife and I have been married for just over 9 years. We have an 8-year-old son together. She was a full-time mom after our son was born. However, in April 2019, she went back into the workforce working part-time as an assistant for a manager at a medical software sales company. She was bummed that she wasn't pulling in a lot in terms of salary, but I was happy for her because I hoped that a job would be motivating for her. She had already complained that she wished I could be more spontaneous and interesting, but despite attempts at counseling, she could never explain what interesting meant. However, 3 months into her job, I found her to be a more happy person, less critical of everything I do and a more patient mother to our son. Our intimate life had basically been dead for around 5 years, and she had shown interest in recharging that. What I didn't know was that she had begun an affair with a surgeon, now 53 male. She met at a medical conference. Her job involved travel to go to medical conferences and visit clinics and hospitals. The surgeon lived in a nearby big city, and she would use work as an excuse to see him. This went on behind my back, as she would later tell me. From July 2019 to around April 2020, when she admitted that her work was much more remote during COVID than she had convinced me it was, and she had been driving to see her AP, she told me the AP was interesting, and he was everything that I wasn't, meaning he made a lot of money, had lucrative side businesses with his family, and lectured around the country and loved to travel and enjoy life. She said she regretted becoming a mom because it has made her stay with me for the greater part of a decade and that she needed time to think. She told me to not follow her and had already loaded up her car and left to stay in a room that she was subletting from a friend. I was left to deal with the fallout, including my son's troubling levels of anxiety, and has increased inability to get along with anyone in school. He's cried himself to sleep thinking he's unlovable, and my wife refused to return calls. The only thing she did do was send me a letter establishing the date of separation and her intention to file for divorce a year from the date of separation. People are all telling me to file for divorce as soon as our state lets us, and tell the court that my wife abandoned the family. 5 months ago, she tried to get me to sign a separation agreement, bogus terms, which I refused and decided to go see a lawyer. Then 2 months ago, she started talking to me about how she wants to be more civil with me from now on. Then last week, she asked to meet. She starts crying and saying her AP was abusive and that he told her that he was divorcing his wife of 3 years, 26 female, who he was separated from. Turns out the wife was in another city finishing up her final year of graduate school, but when she found out about the affair she went psycho, and the AP stood by and did nothing as his wife called my wife's employer, which caused her to have to leave her job. He merely admitted that he did adore his wife and wanted to let her follow her dream, but had a hard time dealing with long distance, and pretty much admitted that his wife said she was okay with him having one-night stands, but he regrets hurting now and for letting it drag on. The AP also said nothing when his wife texted my wife that he was not leaving her and that they would file restraining orders if she ever contacted them again. My wife said that she had a moment of insanity, and that she was willing to get therapy, but that at no point did she intend to be malicious and that she was a victim of his lies. She said she was struggling and said she wanted to move back in and be a family again. What do I do? How do I deal with someone who has caused so much pain? If we're cohabitating again, I can't guarantee that I won't develop feelings for her again. Most importantly, I don't know how to deal with this in a way to inflict the least trauma on my son. I had been prepared to respond to a divorce petition, but my wife said she'd lose it if I filed right now and said she just wanted to find the love we once. My male, 40 wife, 36, has admitted to having an affair with her now ceased friend at the end of his life. Male, 36. A few years ago, my wife got back in touch with an old high school friend of hers who she lost touch with a few years beforehand. I knew at the outset that this guy was seriously besotted with her in their youth for many years. It was an unrequited love and nothing romantic ever happened between them. But they were close friends. I met him once they got in touch, and he seemed like a nice guy, but I did notice a chemistry between them when they were around each other, joking, laughing at each other, etc. I put it down to years of friendship. There was never any other concerning behavior or red flags. He was also married. My wife never hung out with him one-on-one in this time. A year back, he was diagnosed with cancer. At the outset, the prognosis was poor. My wife was understandably devastated when she found out. She would check in by a message, phone to see how he was, and we saw him during the time in group settings. We are in NZ. COVID wasn't an issue and saw he was declining rapidly. Towards the end, my wife decided she wanted to spend some time one-on-one with before he passed. She took him out to some of their favorite childhood haunts and spent time together bonding and talking. I thought nothing of it. He passed a couple of weeks ago. My wife was absolutely destroyed. She has been crying for days. She stopped eating. Couldn't get out of bed. And then she admitted the time they spent together at the end of his life was not purely platonic. Apparently, one afternoon when they were out together, he admitted he had never loved anyone like he loved her, that she was still the love of his life. She denies that he guilted her. She denies he used manipulation, but she says they both broke down into song and basically fell into each other's arms. From then on, they became romantically involved, knowing he had very little time left. She denies that there was sex, especially as he was quite weak towards the end, but she admits they decided to enjoy what time he had left together without the complications of admitting their affair to either me or his wife. She said she understands if I want a divorce, but she needs me to understand it was a surreal situation. She was losing someone deeply important to her who she had trauma bonded with, who she loved, that she knows that isn't an excuse. I am trying to put myself in their shoes. I know how much he loved her. He was deeply in love with her, knowing he was dying. She obviously let her emotions get the better of her too. I feel like I'm equal parts angry, devastated for me, for her and for him. I am so fucking angry, but also so fucking sad. Is this forgivable? Am I insane for even considering it? My head is such a mess right now. My husband says I ruined his life and chance of happiness when cheated 3 years ago and on the root of all his problems. We've been together 5 years now. 3 years ago, we were getting drunk and having threesomes and foursomes together. We have since that knowing it's bad and stopped drinking. Around that time, he made a comment about not knowing if he loved me or wanted to work on our marriage. I was so heartbroken. I told him I was going to stay with friend until he could figure out if our marriage was worth working on. That night, I got blackout drunk because I was upset and had a threesome with my at the time friend and her husband. It's not or acceptable. It's my biggest regret in life. Since then, I've struggled with weight gain and depression because I truly just think I'm a piece of shit. He found out 2 months later because I didn't have the guts to tell. We worked through it, I thought. I went to counseling, and he didn't because he didn't want to go. It seemed like we got past it. Then he turned to cocaine and hid it from me for about a year. He said was because of what I did. He's quit now and we've since moved out of state, and the past year has been amazing. It's felt like we were in love all over again. We both seemed to be so happy. I guess I was wrong. He smokes for stress and anxiety and has now gone 5 days without it, trying to stop for work. Without a stress reliever, he turned to drinking last night after I made a comment that I wasn't thrilled about him starting to drink again. He exploded. He said that he will never be able to get over what I did, and there's no way that I can love him because of that. He started talking about the only way to get over it is to kill a guy I cheated with and started laughing about talking about seeing his blood pool everywhere. I tried to walk away and he got mad and I was terrified. He said over and over again how and the reason he'll never be happy and wants to kill himself. I've never seen him this way to this extent. He said he's just done with everything, kept repeating how he wants to die or kill that guy. I finally locked myself up in the bathroom and turned on water for noise and cried and freaked out until I was throwing up. I've never been so fearful in my life. Then he got mad when I was too scared to come to bed and punched a hole in the wall. I laid down with him, and he apologized and he was just drunk and that he was suddenly horny. I tried to say no, but he kept trying and I was still scared, so I let him try to have sex with me. But because I wasn't into it, even though I tried, he couldn't get off and mad at me and said it was my fault because I didn't want to suck him because he was peeing every 2 minutes. I've never felt obligated to have sex like that and no one got off. He said that he's just need to find a chick willing to suck it and get him off since I wasn't. He just went to bed mad at me. Then this morning, he cuddled up to me and apologized. I asked if he still thought I didn't love him and if he'd really never happy because of me, of if it was just drunk talk. He said no, both of those things are true, but I'm going to stay with you because I like you and I hate other women. I asked Wibby with me if can't even make him feel loved. Same reply as before, because he likes me. I've never been scared of him before, y'all. I kinda make him feel loved. Why stay if you'll always the mistake over my head? I know I fucked up years ago, but he's made it seem like we were past it.